Welcome to Numb Bills Fan Podcast for episode number 144. I am your host, David Palermo, and as always, follow us everywhere on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Numb Bills Fan. Check it out. NumbBillsFan.com also has a playlist of our old episodes, and you can click through to get onto our Etsy store if you want to support the podcast. So please check it out. Maybe you might find some merchandise you like. Also, if you're listening through GrandstandSportsNetwork.com, thank you. Check them out. Best View in Sports. A lot of great podcasts on there that play in time slots. And lastly, brought to you by PunchdrunkSports.com. 3 comedians with a podcast about sports. Punch Drunk Sports with Ari Shafir, Sam Tripoli, and Jason Tebow, who we just had on podcast number 141. Jason Tebow is awesome. Please check that out. Big, huge Falcons fan. And thank you to him coming on. Also, Ari Shafir has a comedy special on Netflix called Double Negative. Make sure you check that out. Ari's awesome. Also, on a side note, go on YouTube. You like comedy? Type in This Is Not Happening. Great show that was on Comedy Central. Please check that out. Really love it. Henry Rollins did one. And a bunch of comedians like Joey Diaz. A great time. And as always, check out Sam Tripoli's new podcast, the Tinfoil Hat Podcast, and he also has a comedy album out coming, or already out, called The Diabolical. So check that out on iTunes, and that's it. Right on the line right now, I have Kevin Massare from CoverOne.net and Locked On Bills on the line. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Dave. How are you? Good to hear from you again.
Your voice is so, silky smooth, and we didn't even bullshit before I called you.
Yeah, good. No, I'm excited. I haven't been on Numb in a couple weeks, so it'll be good to rock.
Yeah. This is it's nice to have you back. Real quick, I wanted to make a point about a quarter way through the season. The Bills are 3-1. A favorite coach I used to rip on, Doug Marrone, who just blew a game punting the ball in his own territory, which is great. So Doug Marrone would break the season into quarters. At least that's what the coach speak he would bring to the pressers was. Every coach has their thing, and so his was, we look at the quarter at a time during the season. So what are your thoughts on the 3-1 start?
I think it's pretty unexpected. I had them 2-2 at this point, and I was pretty, and and many know, I'm a pretty pro-positive side of the Bills coverage, or at least tend to be, even when things are gloom. So even I had them at about 2-2 through this course. So it is even a game better than I had predicted. I expected a loss against either Denver or Atlanta, and they ended up winning them both, especially after that Carolina loss. It looked like 2-2 was where they were going to be. So to see them at 3-1 and really beating 2 former Super Bowl teams, 2 of the 4 former Super Bowl teams, playing the third in Carolina. I mean, I would say it's been a pretty hard stretch, Dave.
Yeah, and honestly, let's be real. You're kicking off a division win, game 1, okay, against the Jets. And a lot of guys around the league, when the team is down and they get a win, even against a depleted team in the middle of the season that's in their division.
Who's 500, by the way.
Right, but usually people go, oh, well, that was a good win. That's 2 wins because it's within the division. And let's be real here. They knock off a division opponent. They lose to an NFC team that doesn't matter. That, oh, by the way, beat the team that is always number 1 in your division. So you really are now 3-1. You also knocked off the Denver Broncos, which, no matter what, has a great defense. I don't care what anybody says. They've been really put to the test these first 4 games defensively. We're talking about, oh, man, this front seven's good. Okay, going to Carolina, that's a good front seven. Going to Denver, a different front seven, good front seven. Going to Atlanta, I had Jason Tebow on. Man, all he's talking about is how the Bills are going to lose, even their depth is so deep, and and it's like, it's not what I saw.
I think you have to give the Jets credit, too, because although they're beating up on some of the lowest end teams, they're not as bad as a pushover as people think. They're not picking first overall. They're going to beat Cleveland this week to be, 3-2. So you have a situation there to where the Jets aren't as bad as people thought. I saw that week one where I've always toted, except their little lapse against Oakland, I've always toted the Jets have a good defense. I even think after making their trade that they did, they're still a strong team, and especially like you mentioned in their front seven. You played 2 to 3 tremendous front sevens. I would say not, except Denver's, seemed to have been struggling, not a crazy good defensive backfield in any of the teams you've played so far. So especially with Atlanta starting KZ, their 5th-round pick at safety, the Jets don't have a great secondary. Denver's is good, but hasn't been performing to their standards. And Carolina's is average. So, I mean, I would say that there's been some room there in the secondary, but their front sevens have all been really good. And, that's really showed in their 3-1 start. And it's actually been part of the reason Tyrod's been able to find a little bit of success, because I don't really believe any of the first 4 secondaries have been very good. And then you're going to go into play a Cincinnati team who's another underperforming secondary, and Adam Jones, who's taking a step back, who's also a little banged up, and Kirkpatrick, who's a little banged up as well. So you're not really playing any of the premier secondaries right now. And actually, someone that's going to have a premier secondary based on PFF is, the Bills, believe it or not, would be considered a very, very good secondary through the first 4 games. One that was ranked nationally as one of the worst units in all of football, Dave, not just the Bills, not just AFC, all of football units was the Bills secondary. Can
I rebuttal on that?
Go ahead.
I'm always the one to crush the national media. The reason we made content, you had Building the Herd podcast going on and that brand with Rob Quinn there. Shout out to him at
Bills Wire.
Yeah, billswire.usatoday.com. So shout out to Rob. We couldn't find information about this team. And
Absolutely.
Nationally, these guys, they just look at the beat reporter. How do you not trust a guy that's there for 20 plus years? How do you not trust him? He's right there. That's a guy. We got to trust him, and frankly, it's like, I can't blame the media nationally this time to rank the Bills secondary that bad. I mean, let's be real here. Can you? Because they all have proven nothing except for EJ Gaines, Dave. But nobody knew.
I think it's lazy. I think at least with the local media, they can claim, like you saw them, they're there at least. With the national media, I think it's lazy to not view it with your own eyes. And one of the initial, conversations I had with some national media members were that they weren't there. Like, how can you make these opinions not seeing this team? To me, Tre'Davious White was always a standout from day one. So to rank them, I'm not saying they should have been ranked top 5 or anything, but to rank them as the worst unit in all of football was just crazy to me. Like, you weren't standing there. And the problem with the local media is that they're going off of negative feelings. They don't really even want to cover the team. They're there to, they're collecting their check, and they just expect the same results as the past 17 years.
Yeah. So, when you see guys getting together on Twitter, tweeting each other, oh, we're going to roast Whaley this time. It's like, dude, have you ever been punched in the mouth? Like, why would you do that to somebody? You want to plan to go attack a guy where you don't think he hates his life every day. That you know what I mean? When it comes to, I don't know, these guys get it hard enough. Lay off them. There's enough idiots out there. Yep. And, so. No,
exactly.
I'm with you.
I just think it's lazy of the national media, Dave. That's all.
You know what's lazy, too, is power rankings and all sorts of garbage. And the Bills, I don't want to give them more credit than they deserve, and I don't want to not give them enough credit, but let's be real. The one difference about the Bills is the Bills aren't Billsing themselves. And always it's the Bills shooting themselves in the foot. How many dumb personal foul penalties do we have? I don't think any, right? So I'm pretty stoked that the Bills aren't doing stupid shit.
Sure.
And
that's...
And they go, oh, well, they catch the breaks. No. I don't think it's that. You know what it is? Is as a Bills fan in the past watching teams that I would deny are unorganized, get it together, you got to stay with the coach, which is true. But in this microwave coaching thing we've had here at One Bills Drive, you have to look at it like this, is the less mistakes you make, the less stupid you appear to the refs, to the whole national media, your perception will change. So if you guys don't shoot yourself in the foot, don't do stupid shit, don't throw somebody afterwards, it's kind of like you don't talk shit. They hear you out there. If you could change your perception just a little bit, and that's why Sean McDermott was brought in. Hey, this is no nonsense. We're going to be cool. We're going to have a good sense of humor. We're going to work hard. We're going to get our work done. We're going to go home. Trust the process. Okay, cool. Well, that's going to transcend through the league. And I think the Bills are going to make less mistakes continuously. They're going to get more breaks because those breaks are going to be more noticeable is my main point. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of pick up where you left off, I have a friend who actually covers and cares about the Packers in depthly. And one of the biggest things he has against Bills fans is, he thinks we rank quarterback at too high of a premium. Easy to say coming from someone that has a quarterback of Aaron Rodgers' skill set. Also says, one of the biggest mistakes the Bills make is they don't give their coaching staff enough opportunity to win football games. After 3 seasons isn't necessarily enough, and in our case 2 seasons isn't enough to tell how good your team's going to be. And if you keep giving up on coaches every 2 years, you need to turn over your rosters. One of the biggest problems there is that in his opinion, the team is always flipping over. You're cutting 30-40 players, you're changing schemes, and we saw that pretty bluntly with Rex Ryan. And I think it was finally obvious to see you take a 4-3 scheme, turn it into a 3-4 scheme. It doesn't work. You turn back to a 4-3 scheme, and it starts to work again. I mean, it's pretty obvious what happened there, Dave. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to know.
You want to know something, though? I will tell you. You bring a Wade Phillips in town, that defense is going to work. You bring in Mike Pettin from a 4-3 before, or whatever the hell, what's his name there, was running?
Schwartz?
Edwards. No, not Twan. Who the hell was the offensive or the defensive coordinator for the Bills under
Jim
Gailey? And then it was the Stash. Wannstedt. It was Wannstedt. So the Bills went from Wannstedt to Mike Pettin, who was, Rex's understudy. So
you might be thinking of Perry Fuel too.
Right. No, well, it was Perry Fuel, and then, that was under Duran.
Who was actually good.
Yeah, and they should have.
George Edwards was under Gailey and was terrible. Then they went to.
George Edwards was trying to rock this hybrid kind of thing, or at least that's what they called it, and I don't think they gave him enough time, but whatever. And then they brought in Wannstedt, and pretty much it just killed Shane Gailey's career in Buffalo because he won't shoot anybody under the bus, and he went down on a sword for him. Long story short, it's like they were in a 4-3. Mike Patton was brought in. They went to a 3-4. Schwartz was brought in. They went to a 4-3. And with Rex coming back to a 3-4, we saw these guys effective before, some of them, and I'm like, maybe this could work. Rex is a legend. This is the Ryans, and here I am. The more I distance myself, Kevin, it's like, I really feel like an asswipe how hard I backed up Rex Ryan. Just give him time. Sure. Because McDermott is doing such a wonderful job with this team right now. And I'm the one, even at the stadium the other day, telling Scott and his dad, like, there's a communication error on defense. Oh, it's no big deal. It's like, no. If that was Rex, we'd all be crushing him. We got to be objective. So I'm almost like, I want to give Coach McDermott time, and I'm still like, hey, that's a problem we have with Rex. Don't just dismiss it. This guy has to prove himself. It's still only 4 games, and I don't mean to digress onto that, but I guess that's kind of has to do with what we're talking about, is the coaching is smart and efficient, and you know what? Next time, I am on the ship of the fans that go, fuck that. We are not switching that shit again. No. You hear Ruben Brown go on the Murphy show, telling us, he goes to Doug Whaley like, dude, you're hiring Rex Ryan? Come on. I feel like a shithead, Kevin.
Initially, it did seem like Jim Schwartz should have been elevated to head coach at the time. I don't know how that would have worked out offensively. Who knows where we'd be today, but at least defensively, you can say that they would have been just as good then as they were today.
I don't mean to cut you off, but can I talk about Jim Schwartz for a sec?
Sure.
I thought it was a little overrated that people wanted him, and I even ripped on it on the podcast a little bit because it's like, get the hell over it. You have Rex Ryan, a mastermind. He's going to figure it out, which we know how they went. But the thing is with Jim Schwartz, it's not for nothing. That guy had an 0-16 team, okay? Like, let's be real here. That's awful. How many people have dealt with that. Do you follow me? It's like, how do you fire that guy after he brings you back into the playoffs? I don't care if you have a bad season or not. That's pretty awful. You know what I mean? He went 2-14 his first year, 2-10 the next year. You know, and it's like, come on. He was left with nothing. Like literally nothing. So
sure.
Within 3 years, they're in the fucking playoffs, Kevin. You know what I mean? And then while he went down, and he went 7-9 his last year, and it's like, he's a smart guy. I don't think he's gonna. And every time I turn on the Lions, it's like Matt Stafford's throwing bombs. You know what I mean? They had all the pieces there, and it's like, man, like I don't understand why you would fire the guy at the time. Yeah, I really didn't. I thought. I don't know.
It's just like anyone else does. Like everyone that doesn't win games just makes rash decisions and fires their coaches. The only time it's ever backfired, in my opinion, was the Jaguars hanging on to Gus Bradley for too long, and keeping him for way too long when the team wasn't very good. Other than that, holding on to your coach is never a bad idea. And if you look at like the Chargers now, like Gus Bradley's coaching them, I don't think they're very good either. So maybe Gus Bradley's just a bad coach. He's coaching them as their defensive coordinator. Anthony Lynn's running into some hard luck, but that's just not a very good defense. So I think you can say that holding on to your coach generally, outside of that one situation where some reason the Jaguars kept Gus Bradley with a terribly losing record for way too long. Other than that, I think you can say you should pretty much always give your guy at least 4 years, and that's if you give in Buffalo we're having 2 years, 3 years, 2 years.
Sorry, 2 years, if you go 0-16 and like a couple win seasons after that, you should, and then you make the playoffs your third year. I mean, you should be. If that was a Buffalo coach, that guy would have a street named after him.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing.
But you don't know what's going on in the front office either, where maybe Schwartz was just who knows? Who knows what happened there? It's more than just record on the field. You don't really know what happened to personnel or what players said about him to the ownership. I mean, you don't really know some of that secondary stuff, which can become important. It is telling. Like, you're right. In face value, he should have gotten way more of a run. But didn't. There's more there, and then we probably don't know, as we don't really cover the Lions, so we don't know really what happened there. I think you can flip it back to the Bills and say, at this point, like with this roster, who many predicted, like we were just talking about, as being one of the worst defenses in the NFL, all of a sudden is playing at such a high level at 3-1 that, I mean, it's proven that he knows what he's doing. So to make a rash decision after 2 years is going to be a really, really poor move. And I mean, you have to get him for 4 to 5 years here, Dave.
What do you do with, I'm going to change topics here.
Sure.
Because what do you do with Marcell Dareus?
I mean, I'm still a pretty big Marcell Dareus defender, but it just does not look like he's interested in playing football at this point in his career. We talked about it a couple of shows ago for you that, we got in that show, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 episodes ago. And basically, I think at this point he's made his money. He just does not look interested this year in playing for Sean McDermott or whatever the situation is. Post Rex Ryan, he just doesn't look like he's giving it his all. And at that point, I do believe you need to move on from the player and potentially try to get an asset out of him in the offseason. Now,
Bill's lead reporter there, Chris Brown, he was on a John Murphy show, and he mentioned that Dareus had talked to him before the game about putting on, a day or two before, about putting on these, it sounds like ankle, like, I don't know, like an ankle brace that you wrap or something.
Okay.
And to like try to support him. So I'm thinking like classic football stuff where the whole foot is like taped, you know what I mean, all the way around it. But I guess because he was sick of his ankles getting rolled up. Now, when I heard Chris Brown, go into this, I was like, okay, Are they just kind of making some shit up for good PR? I mean, I don't know. It's not Chris Brown's style, so I'll trust Chris Brown. He's incredible. And I'll, I guess after the game, Dareus is talking to him again and goes, yeah, I'm only gonna play with one brace on because I can't move. And honestly, it seems like that's what we saw. We didn't see an explosion at all. He got moved right the fuck out of the way in the goal line play. Right out of the way. Like nothing happened. You know what I mean? And then Kyle gets pulled away too. So, I don't know. I just kind of, hearing that, okay, well, he's got another, a little bit longer of a leash for me. And going into it, I was like, man, he really doesn't care about football, which I can't blame him. You know what I mean? I can't. When you really don't give a fuck, how do you give a fuck? I've been in a lot of shit, and even with what I do for a living, sometimes I really don't give a fuck, but I still have to do a good job. I still have to be a professional, and the dude is costing the team a lot of money, and I just hope that no matter what, he's just being a professional, because you and I have backed him for a long time. I think weed is a fucking joke. I get really offended when people, brag about getting drunk, make videos about getting fucking drunk. And then Dave, the guy who might smoke weed in his own fucking spare time, is look like an idiot. And, I don't care what guys do in their own home. If that's what they got to do to cure their pain, sure. We hear about all these players. I hear stories that go down to Florida. Oh, yeah, this Bills player smoked. It's like, oh, shit. And it's like, I don't care. I don't even got to look for it. We all get it here. But after a certain while, you got to get out of your own fucking way. And this is coming from somebody who is always in their own way. And it's like, you have to just really grasp. They got to get, I hope they do, somebody to talk to him. I'm sure Kyle is probably sick of talking to him. And what do? He just needs to get it together for himself. And what the Bills need to do here, Kevin, is they need to protect their investment. So what do you do with that? You don't bust his balls. The best case scenario for you is you get some fruition towards progress out of Marcell Dareus. And honestly, with these ankle stings on there, we did not see explosion. We didn't see the Marcell that we're used to. The 10-sack, Marcell. It's like, that's not what we've been seeing. At the same time, it could be a bad combination of a bunch of shit, but your coach is calling them out. At the same time, that's what coaches do, and the coaches aren't the ones in pain, and they're always going to put more pressure on the players, listen to players behind closed doors. You know what I'm saying? So, you're kind of stuck in this what the fuck is Marcell doing type shit. And at the same time, maybe Marcell is just doing Marcell. You know what I mean? I really don't know, but I do know that the Pagulas need to protect their investment with Marcell Dareus. And the way to do that is you have to encourage him and you have to give him an opportunity to get better. And there's no crime in holding him accountable. It's just you don't have to shame him and make him, you don't have to give him more of a reason to not work. You follow me? If McDermott says something honest, well, I'd like to see more out of Marcell. Okay, that might be honest. That's not something he could really get mad at because only he knows if he's giving it his all. It's just if you want to plaster him or put out negative things about him, rumors or whatever, which has been proven from teams to do to get a point across or send a message, or you want to treat him like shit and make a big thing about it, you're not going to get your investment to play.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with that. And I just think Sean McDermott, right, unfortunately, for as many players as he's been able to connect with, I think that's one where he hasn't been able to, and at this point, I think it's going to be, it is what it is. It's going to be one of those situations to where, much like the Jets had to do with their stud Sheldon Richardson. It's going to take a trade, in my opinion. So, it is what it is.
You know what's going to happen, and I hope this doesn't happen to Marcell. I think the team is going to pass him by if he doesn't pick it up, because the team now is winning without him. The highest paid man has to walk into that building. Look, I saw Marcell on the sidelines this camp, and you did too. I thought he was very attentive. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and say I think he's slacking. That's not what I saw. And I said the same thing about Sammy Watkins. I see the kids shuffling into the locker room. I'm not going to, barely walking at the end of practice. It's like these guys work hard. And Marcell's on the sideline talking with the guys in his group, and going over plays and going over at camp. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't buy when I see a photo of him and his defensive line coach there, who's allegedly a maniac, but he's not. You know, it seems to be like what they do is, oh, he was great on Hard Knocks. No, that's not really how he is. Okay, sure. Right. You know, and Marcell has some look at him like, okay, old man, who the fuck you talking to? But all that is a dumb picture caption. I think it was in like the Buffalo News. It's like, of course, it's clickbait.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's like, come on, man. I have a bitchy resting face too. I always look mad. Maybe Marcell just looks mad or sad. I don't know. You know, he seems like a pleasant gentleman, and it is what it is. I wish him the best because, man, I love when he's on. But I'll tell you, the people behind him, what? Why didn't Adolphus Washington play? Was it because Marcell was up?
I mean, presumably, but the original was Cedric Thornton was playing much better than him. So, you know, Adolphus has his moments of concentration lapses too. So, you know, between him and Dareus, I just think that they're completely, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially, you can say they're moving away from any old regime guys. Offensively, yeah, they're you know, playing with Tyrod Taylor, playing with LaShawn McCoy, they're playing with their offensive line, who's pretty much the same. But on the defensive side of the ball, you can say they're really not willing to make any like changes for these players schematically, and it is what it is. But I don't see, you know, Leslie Frazier is going to do what he's going to do, and for some reason, Dolph and Massare Dareus are two of some of the remaining players from the old defense, except Preston Brown. So, you know, they're not a good fit, and they're going to move on without him.
You really think so?
Yeah, I think this is the last season you see of Massare Dareus, outside of something, you know, complete change in the last 12 games. I think this is it. They'll field the best offer. I could see him moving a very similar change that they did with Watkins, where they're going to take another positional player, maybe look at, you know, maybe do the reverse, look for a receiver or something in the offseason. But I think they've already proven to do player for player scheme deals that fit their scheme. So I really could think you could see I believe it's a post 6-1 trade designation on Dareus next season, really gets you out from under the cap. So there is ways around it, and I do see him being moved effectively in this offseason.
Now, here's the deal, though, is you have to put something on tape for people to believe in.
I think he has enough tape, Dave,
so I don't know if there's enough tape to show that he gives a fuck. That's the problem.
Well, then that's a problem that he shouldn't be playing anyway. I think
I'm saying if that's the issue,
that would justify the Bills' move. Then
you got to. I don't know. You got to hope their agent does the job. It's just, I don't know why Marcell wouldn't want to play on this team. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying he does or doesn't.
He needs a player's coach, man. I think everyone's different. Every player is different. Some people can't play for Belichick because he's not a player's coach. I mean, I really think that you need a specific type of coach for him, and I think that he can excel underneath a different program across the NFL. So I don't know that this situation. I mean, he needs almost like Rex Ryan back in a way.
Man, that's not what I'm looking for, though. I want this guy to play in the Bills forever. I really do. I really want him to reach his potential, especially because, let's be real here. You know, he ain't young, but at the same time, these guys get to play until their later years, and he is a freak athlete, and he is so talented. And I've defended him in the past because he's had a lot of things happen, you know, and a lot of personal things, and it's like that sucks. You know, it really sucks. But like everybody has their shit too.
Exactly, but in this profession, we're making $100 million. I mean, we all have our stuff, me included, but I'm not making $100 million to perform on the field. You're not either. So, like, he is. So he needs to, be held to that standard, and he also needs to actually want to be here. And at this point, he's not really showing that for us.
I just hope he's being professional, and that's all I can ask. And he can show up. He shows up on the field.
He wasn't earlier in the season when he can't even show up to a preseason game. So you got to remember that some of this is on him. This isn't just, McDermott being hard on him. He's toward the end of last year and coming into this year with the new change, he might just be over it. He's like, I'm making $100 million. I'm making this money anyways. Who cares? I don't really care about winning. I'm just going to be here and do the best that I can. And that's kind of the attitude he's showing right now, is that, he's playing in, 20 something snaps, which is the lowest on the whole entire Bills defense. So,
right.
at some point that's just not $100 million. You could sign a 3rd-round pick to do that, Dave. So you're gonna have to free up that cap space and potentially receive another asset in a process that he might not fit into. So I do think that I think he would already be moved if it wasn't a cap strapped position, to be honest. So I'm usually someone that defends him, but this season has been ridiculous. And I think some of his true colors has popped through.
It's unfortunate. Next topic. The Bills wide receiver position. Jordan Matthews has had surgery on his hand, and
thumb.
So he's out for over a month, 6 weeks, something like that.
I would say probably 3 games with the bye. I would say he can come back, and probably 4 weeks.
Okay, so the Bills signed back Philly Brown. That was a guy that I was hoping would stick on a roster anyways.
Yeah, he made the initial team.
He made the initial roster cut. He got cut the next day for when they traded for Kalen Clay. But he made the initial team with the roster, and then they claimed a couple of players, and he got cut there. But he was a perfect situation to where someone that knows the system was here. I thought he played fine. I mean, I think he's just your normal run of the mill 3rd and 4th receiver. To me, he shouldn't have been out there. I don't know. I don't think he's great, but I also don't think that. I think there's a lot of efficiency.
They like him on special teams, man. They really do like him on special teams. That's always been his deal. That they've talked about, and honestly,
and it's gonna get Tate inactive again.
I don't know, man. I think they say they like him as like a gunner or something, or am I out of my mind? Like, I don't think he actually returned the ball
in preseason.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he doesn't really. He's not a returner.
He can punt return. Will he? I don't know. But he has shown that ability. So I don't know. I think he adds a couple of dynamics to the field where, for some reason, although Brandon Tate's a fine returner, they've been making him inactive for a reason. I mean, he doesn't really do anything else. So at this point, you have to do more than just return like 1 kick a game and a couple punts. Like, that's just not enough to give you an active roster spot, where someone like Philly Brown can take a couple gunner snaps, a couple snaps on offense. All of a sudden, that's worth it.
Right. So, right. Yeah, and I was making a case on Twitter for Steve Johnson as a kind of a joke, but not. I was like, man, all he's got to do is just get open and play sandlot football. Get open for Tyrod. And, I mean, it'll be cute, but it ain't happening. I'm psyched that...
I just don't think he's to the level of playing NFL football. He's been hurt like 2 out of 3 years.
Unfortunate for him. He's so good, man.
I think he would be good with Tyrod specifically because of his ability to be random. Yeah. I don't think he's good for everyone, like players who are more conventional.
That's what I'm trying to say, man. When plays break down, I trust that the dude would get open. You know what I mean? And you can't. Revis couldn't stick him. And he could be like, all right, dude, I'm just gonna end up over here in the spot. That said, he ain't moving all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that how his workout would. Like, no one even gave him a go, so he can't be up to NFL standards anymore.
Yeah, I mean, good for him.
Even though he's not that old, I just don't think he kept his body up. He kept getting hurt. It was always the curse of him, man.
No, that's true.
Yeah, so you give someone who knows the system inside and out, like Philly Brown, a chance, and then you have a couple of guys in the practice squad that will get called up here soon. In my opinion.
Yeah. I think I want to see the Riley kid play, man.
And due to Walt Powell being cut there, I think that opens the door for one of those practice squad players to eventually come up here and once again in Dupree or in Brandon Riley, who the coaching staff really likes. But I think that whatever happened with Walt Powell and his 4-game suspension when he showed back up into the building, they didn't like what they saw, or something happened there that did eventually bring back Philly Brown. And I don't think that changes the fact that I don't think that Brandon Tate will stick on this roster for very long.
Do you know how disappointed I was, honestly, that Walt Powell was cut? I'm like, what the fuck did this guy do?
They were using him a lot in preseason.
Dude,
so
I loved him in preseason. He made that kid is just naturally gifted.
He must have some. Once again, he's one of those cases where They kept him for 4 games. They would have just cut him, honestly, Dave. So there must have been something he came back with. They asked him a couple questions. He failed a test, or he failed some playbook thing, or he failed something physically, or wasn't healthy or in shape, or some variation of all of those. And then once they realized he wasn't going to have plans on this roster, they went in immediately. The next day, they immediately went and signed Philly Brown. So I do think that was a direct replacement there. And then I still think one of the young players does come up here maybe in the next week or two.
I hope so. Special teams is a real thing. Currently, I don't like the Bills' special teams. I'm sorry. There's some good plays, but it ain't good enough. It is not good enough. I'm almost at a point where I want to go through Crossman's career, and I want to go through the game logs, and I want to see what all the special teams penalties have been, because there is something fucked up about the technique. There's just something. I don't know shit. But there is just something where it's the same penalties or it's the same bullshit. Like, there's these teams get such good returns on him. I don't understand. He must
present something in the locker room, or with expertise, or with player selection.
You ever sit in front of him? I got to sit in front of him at camp at the presser, and dude, he even shut Chris Brown down. Okay, and I don't know why, but he's definitely like very professional, and he could definitely sell you on anything because he's that confident, and he's out there yelling and shit. But like, when I see a guy with Ross who has no depth catching the ball, okay, no depth perception, whatever, catching the ball, and you can't run the rest of your special teams play, guess what? You got to fucking put somebody else in there so you can run it correctly. Because how do you not see day one that this kid can't? How do you get to the NFL level returning kicks and you don't know how to play center field catching a ball? Like, seriously.
I think in his defense, he regressed because he had a really good year. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years ago, but yeah.
Regressed? Did he lose fucking eyeballs? Was he playing with like bifocals?
Confidence. I don't know. I don't know what goes into being a punt returner, but kick returner, but he did have check his stats. He was a fairly decent player that just, I don't know what happened. It's just like anyone, something could have happened. He could have nagging injuries. I don't know. Not really sure what they saw in him, but either way, I'm pretty hard on Crossman. I don't think he deserved to even make it to this point. I don't think I like a single thing about the special teams outside of our kicker, that he apparently had a say in, I guess, according to McDermott. He had a say in bringing in Hauschka and not, needing that extra roster spot on the freaking kickoff specialist, which had to have been him as well. So like, I don't really like him as a coach. I think the unit, one thing that's been constant, you're right, in penalties, I think it's gotten a little better this year on special teams specifically. But yeah, he's just not.
No disrespect. That could be a special teams coach. I think I could. I really do because I think that shit. I don't think they're starting to evolve special teams a little bit on kickoffs. We saw the pooch kick. Oh, cute, cool. Well, if we can't cover the kicks, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Like, the Bills got really lucky that ball was not brought back to the house. And I am sick of a stupid... I can't remember the last time we've had a special teams touchdown. I think it was Leotis McKelvin, wasn't it? Or was it one after that? On a punt return. Okay? Either can you, Kevin. That's my fucking point. You want to upgrade? Well, go through where his special teams rank every single year. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was not good in Detroit. I think he might have had one mediocre season. Okay? And he's lasted this long, and I wish him the best always. I wish all these coaches the best. But if we're talking accountability and trusting the process, figure this the fuck out. That said, you had some injuries out there, and you got guys that, Matt Milano, he's going to be fucking playing linebacker and special teams. His head is going to be spinning. So, you also have injuries. But guess what? That's all special teams is depth and injured players for every coach in the league. Not acceptable in my book. Sorry. Figure the fucking shit out or get the fuck out.
I agree. I don't have any defense for Danny Crossman at this point. So
I don't.
I don't think he's a very good coach, and I don't like our return game. I think he has to present some type of leadership in meetings, man. I mean, there's no other question. There's no other answer to the question. So, I think that's pretty much the only thing he possesses. Maybe he has an eye. Remember, special teams coaches can have a real eye for talent on offense and defense too. Their sole job isn't just to cover kicks. It's they present like who are the most talented players on the team. Apparently, some of their scouting is supposed to be some of the hardest in all of coaching. So I don't know.
I'll be honest with you, Kevin. I'll be honest with you, man. I think there is a lot to special teams. So I'm going to rebuttal on what I said. I can't coach special teams, okay? I don't know enough about the game. But I think that they don't get enough credit to special teams coaches. At the same time, it's a unit where you're not supposed to notice it. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be like, oh, okay, well, they kicked the ball to the 5 and they got it at the 20. Okay, that's not bad. Let's go, team, go. Yeah, all right, guys, let's just get some momentum. You know, that's it. Maybe we can pin them deep. Okay, and you know, I'm just saying that it's got to be some kind of fundamentals that's being coached in these players, because it's either a run back or a special teams penalty. Now, the special teams hasn't been like horrible this year. I don't think it's horrible. I just don't think it's good enough. And I think when you look at it, there's many different ways to do many different things, and there's many different techniques. And I trust the fact that McDermott is pretty bright. And we see how fast they make adjustments on the offensive side of the ball with that offensive line, by the way. So I'd like to actually transition into the offensive line on real quick. Richie Incognito, he was asked to do some different things, some stuff that we like to see. And I almost wonder if Richie and McCoy maybe put a little word in like, hey, guys, this is what we do. Richie fucks shit up, and I run behind him. Hi, I'm LaShawn McCoy. You know, maybe that happens. So I like to see them actually making adjustments relatively quick, this team.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with their offensive line right now is that John Miller and Eric Wood aren't playing very good. So, you know, they're going to have to make a big step up on that center and the right side of the offensive line. Actually, Mills isn't even the weak link to me at this point. He's playing average football, which is fine. You know, you have John Miller, who's playing pretty rookie year football for him, who's really been pretty poor at PFF, and Eric Wood, who's actually one of the lowest ranked starting centers right now. So they're going to need to figure out a way to fix that up the middle. They've had to play some ridiculously talented defensive tackles, so that could have a little bit to do with it. But you know,
doesn't get easier against the Bengals.
No, you got another one. So you got the 5th straight defensive tackle who's very good. You know, it should get a little bit easier as the season goes on when they play a couple more teams. But no, the first 5 in terms of interior offensive linemen, you know, they're going to have their hands full with another defensive tackle that's, you know, very, very good at football. So, you know, they're going to struggle to move the ball if those two don't get on the same page, or they're not playing very well. So that would be my initial conclusion of the offensive line there. Dawkins has actually been okay. Glenn didn't play very good when he was in. Incognito's been, you know, pretty good.
Glenn was back at practice today, by the way, which is Wednesday. For
he was.
People listening.
I heard he was backing up Dawkins.
Right, now here's the deal. Richie Incognito spoke very highly of Dawkins, and it seems like Dawkins is a goddamn sponge. I love what I'm seeing out of him. He, from all accounts, looks and is acting like he's willing to learn. I think you and I talked about Kyle Williams and who was it? Somebody else, maybe it was Eric Wood, working. I don't know. Somebody showing Deion Dawkins some shit to handle Von Miller, possibly. You know, it was definitely around the Denver game. I heard something on the sidelines. So it's like, you know, you just want these guys to just play and quote unquote buy in and do their part. And Deion Dawkins is doing nothing but his part. And honestly, you know, you got Cordy Glenn under contract. Give him time to come back. Like, damn, dude, all he really needs is time. He's already proven it. And sometimes, look, we got a good thing going on right now. This line is, hey, look, it's shaky. It's inconsistent. It should be the word. At the same time, we have the perfect quarterback. We have a coach that's game planning for this and around this. And, I mean, coaches do it in different ways. You know what line I don't think was too good? Was Changaley's offensive line for years. But the thing is he just schemed around it. He ran out of spread formations. He ran out of a pistol. He ran out, you know what I mean, out of passing looks to really disguise that at the time, which was cutting edge at the time. He got rid of the ball in 3 seconds or 3 steps. It's like the ball is just out. Steve Johnson slant. Steve Johnson slant. Steve Johnson slant. How many times? Steve Johnson comeback. Like how many? A dumb drag route. Something simple. Short, out of the hands quick, boom. I mean, see Tom Brady for years, so there's definitely different ways to mask this offensive line. And with Tyrod Taylor, it's almost like you're in a perfect situation. And with Richie Incognito, you know what, we're going to blend some more power plays back into the game. That's kind of cool. I really like that at least the coaching staff is open-minded and listening to the players. That's great. This is a sports team where really from top to bottom, as Russ Brandon was saying years ago in the marketing thing, lockstep. Branding words, lockstep. Yeah, we're all in lockstep. Well, this team looks like it's in lockstep. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot to building a football team, and it goes to, you need to have the right pieces in place. And if players aren't going like back to making a full circle at this point, I'm kind of coming back to all of our topics. If your players aren't going to buy into the quote unquote process, there's only so much you can do to develop your players. So you need people to buy in, or that becomes as contagious as anything, as we've seen in years past. So I do believe that if you have young players beating out some of the veteran players, you need to make sure that they're playing like Dawkins. If something's going on with Glenn, being on the field's half the battle. So if you're going to be hurt, and Cordy's played through injuries throughout his career, but every other season he has a major back issue, he has a hip issue, he has ankle injuries, he has foot injuries. You just need to be able to play the sport. So I don't care how talented you are. If he loses his job there, maybe he transitions over to right tackle and takes over from Mills. I do see some variation of that happening where either him or Dawkins could flip to the right side. Probably actually Glenn, because if you teach Glenn the right side, at least you have Dawkins playing the left side.
Right.
And you're able to have Mills go back into right if Cordy gets hurt. So.
I mean, I think you have so many options for Cordy Glenn at this point. Who knows? People have talked about him moving to the right side, Which is just as important, especially with a moving quarterback like Tyrod Taylor, who gets out of the pocket, who really doesn't stand in the pocket. So left and right don't really matter to him, because you need tackles that can do their job. He's not going to stand back there and get blindsided. He's not that kind of quarterback. He's always going to feel the pressure. That's something he's good at. He's always going to scramble out, and he's going to either make the throw or he's not. Putting Cordy on the right side doesn't really do anything. Specifically to a running and mobile quarterback, it doesn't really matter. So if he's one of the best tackles, you play him at right tackle over Mills. Now, one thing I want to say is, real quick, just a few minutes on the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals, I think, are a team you don't sleep on. Allegedly, they have the number 3 defense. And, the Bills have had to play a bunch of defensive styles right out the gate. So that offensive line, I'm hoping will gel a little bit better. And again, though, I really think it comes back down to what we were just talking about, which is that offensive line. I'm very nervous because teams have passed. Changaley had one haunting quote years ago, and he goes, "Well, we're on this streak. You got to learn how to win. You got to learn how to keep winning, and learn how to accept winning." And some whatever coach gargling he had going on, which love Changaley, but that really is a thing. Like, I don't want this team slacking in preparation. You got guys asking McDermott, "Do you like what McCoy said, or do you want him to chill out a little bit?" It's like, dude, really? You can't? That's what you ask? Like, hey, LaShawn's having a little too much fun. What do you think McDermott's going to say? What are you talking about?
Right.
I
don't know. If you look at the Cincinnati that team, they're built similar to a Bills team, especially this Bills team, where they have some weapons on offense. They're not particularly very good on offense. They've struggled. They've struggled on their offensive line. They struggle beside AJ Green. They as well struggle at that receiver position. Brandon LaFell's been kind of a shell of himself. To me, I mean, they're not going to put up points in a hurry. They've gotten to play some pretty bad teams, and they lost to Houston 13-9. They played Green Bay and lost them in a close game. Played Cleveland, who's not very good, if not the worst team in the NFL. So, I mean, their numbers are skewed. They got shut out by Baltimore week 1, 20-0. And Baltimore's a mess themselves right now. I don't know. I don't really think that they present a challenge other than them being an NFL team. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think they're very good, but they're not very good. But it's any given Sunday, like we saw last week with the Bills.
So you got Geno Atkins though, okay?
Sure.
And Incognito was just on the Murphy show, and he was talking. He's like, he's going to be doubled. Now, that could just be some shit because Richie ain't stupid that you spew out there, hoping that maybe the Bengals latch to that and maybe try to game plan against it. And they show their cards early, and the Bills.
You got to run on them, to be honest. I mean, they're the 23rd. I mean, they're like maybe 18th on defensive run stops.
So that's
17th.
That's my next point. Is at least we have, of all people, Richie Incognito going up against Atkins. At the same time, I mean, he ain't invincible, Incognito. And it's like, he's been exposed before, but you know what I like about him is he owns it. He totally owns it. Like, I forgot who it was. What game was it? And he's like, dude, that guy got me. I forgot who it was. Man, I thought the Bills just played him. Anyways, I'm drawing a blank. But, I don't want to sleep on the Bengals, but damn, dude, I don't see a reason to fucking not feel confident in a win. To be, as Bills fans, we hate to say that because we're not used to it and anything can happen. But I'll be honest, I am trusting the motherfucking process, Kevin, and I am trusting that this team is going to be prepared and not slip up.
It's pretty simple on defense. I mean, they suck on the offensive side of the ball. Like, they have one good player, shut down AJ Green. Tyler Eifert's still not playing. Their first round pick, John Ross, is still hurt. I mean, you have to pretty much, just sell out and stop AJ Green and make sure you're watching those running backs. Outside of that, I mean, it's really not a hard game plan defensively. Offensively, with their average to below average run defense, you just have to run on them. That's the game plan. It's what you're supposed to do really well. It should match up pretty well for you. But you're going to their house and they're coming off their first win of the season. So, there's still a small parity in the NFL. So, any given week, I don't really consider anyone weak except a few teams at the bottom, 49ers, Browns, etc. So, Indianapolis without luck. I don't think Miami's very good. The Chargers aren't very good, but the Bengals are at least a slight step above that to where they can win football games. They play in a pretty good division. They could beat anyone from the Steelers or they could lose to anyone like the Browns. So I don't, they're a team to me, they're built like traditional Bills teams where very inconsistent. They're going to finish around 6-10, 7-9, just like any other Bills team. They'll finish a little better than their 1-3 start. But I just don't think that that's a very good football team, and they're going to lose more than they win. Meaning they're 7-9, and I'm glad they actually beat the Bengals last week because I wouldn't want to play them at 0-4. They'd be out to win a game, especially at home.
Well, your boy, who makes it rain at the club, Adam Jones, Pac-Man Jones. He has 9 tackles, and
yeah, he hasn't played very good at all.
I don't know. He could still play. Didn't he have like a good punt return or something?
Maybe, but as far as the defensive cornerback spot, PFF has him ranked pretty low throughout the first 4 games. So their defense is okay. It's not going to be something that's going to win them too many games, in my opinion, but it is a good defense.
What do you think about Humber being out to switch to the Bills defense then? I don't mean to just digress, but
I just think it's a small step back to Milano. I think although he's a tackles machine, I just think that position allows for it. So
I hope he settles in.
Right.
Okay.
We'll have to see.
Anything else you think about this game? Anything you're looking to see? I thought Tyrod played outstanding. I really agree with a lot of people that watch this team from the outside. Man, Bills fans are really hard on this team. At the same time, I love Bills fans because when a guy like Rex Ryan comes in, they sniff that guy out and they give it hell. And, I got to say, any thoughts? I had a couple notes I jotted down here. I had something to rant about, too. Stephon Gilmore. Thoughts?
I think he had some unfortunate calls against in the last game against Carolina. Some of those were pretty ticky-tack 5-yard penalties to change the game. Gilmore, I think, is better than that. I don't think he deserves the criticism he got just because, once again, New England decided to pay him. Wasn't his fault. I mean, he is what he is. He's a pretty solid cornerback, but he's not someone that you should be paying $12, $13, $14, $15 million to.
Okay, and also, the Chargers fans are actually pretty real as far as ditching their team. I thought that was pretty incredible that you're an hour and a half away from LA and you only need to fill a 30,000 seat, maybe even 25,000 seat stadium, and it's empty. And throwing it out there, if you want to go to LA, I would go to LA to watch that.
I wish I could fit it in my travel schedule.
Dude, it would be a blast. I think.
Yeah, no.
I feel so bad for that team. It just shows you what a joke the NFL has become. And it's like, Roger Goodell made a promise. He made a promise to the owners that, we're going to be a billions of dollar business, yada, yada, yada. But he never put the word integrity in there. And the NFL has gotten themselves into some dumb shit by trying to set a standard for the kids and the women. Try to set a standard. And we're going to suspend our players. We're going to publicize it. And really, it's honestly come to backfire. And, the transparency that, hey, it's just one of those things where, hey, it's just about the TV revenue. It's just about the TV revenue. You know what's really disgusting? Is that's how it's just loosely said. Well, hey, guys, it's just money. It's just money. Hey, hey, what do you do? You know what? No integrity. It's just money. That's all.
Well, the problem is, I don't think here, especially when you're talking about that team, I don't think San Diego has much say, and they're a terrible fan base, so I don't really care about where they play, whether it's in LA or San Diego. That their fans suck anyway. So I think it's very hypocritical on both sides of the whole.
Jesus, Kevin.
On both sides of it, though. So I don't think they had anything to complain about. They weren't a fan base like Green Bay or Buffalo or, it's marginal 2-3 hours north. I don't know. I don't think they care. They just surf. They watch occasional college sports and mind their own business. I don't really think they care that much about their NFL team.
Well, Kevin, that's all we got, bud. So where can we find you? What's up? And anything you want to say?
Well, traveling this week, so
where are you?
You won't see me too much around Washington, D.C. So
for what?
At a work conference and celebrating our anniversary here. So.
And what's your anniversary?
First year.
Of what?
Of marriage.
Yeah, I know. You got to tell a class. I know what it is, but not. It might be an anniversary of a dog, a cat.
Yeah, no, it's just your first year anniversary. So we turned a small work convention into a long weekend and check out some of those monuments down here and see what's going on. It's a pretty cool city, so we're excited to see more of it. We've only been here for a day, so you can usually find me always, at my handle at Kevin Massare on Twitter. I'm most notably at this point going to be on my Locked On Bills podcast. That's pretty much where I am exclusively now at this point.
I'm really into that. Look, Kevin, thank you for everything as always, and you have a good evening. Okay.
You too, Dave. You finish
bud.
off your game strong, man.
Thank you.
All right, see you later.
See it. That was Kevin. Love having Kevin on. It was nice. The reason I like to talk to Kevin, I feel I have a good chemistry with Kevin because if there was one criticism I have gotten my entire life consistently is I ramble. And Kevin is cool because we can ramble together and go down some theories, and he brings up some points and perspectives that I don't really look at sometimes, and he really gets me to expand on my thoughts. So it's always nice to shoot the breeze with Kevin. So again, make sure you follow Kevin on Twitter and all that. Kevin, Massare, everywhere, and subscribe to Locked On Bills podcast. Also subscribe to Rock Pile Report podcast if you don't, and we all have our own demographics. Cover One now is a draft podcast show, which is still great. Get your draft all the time. Eric Turner is the hardest working guy, most consistent guy that I know. I think he takes on a lot of work, and appreciate the work he puts into his stuff. So check out everything out. Grandstand Sports Network has all the stuff up there. If you like a produced show, you got to check out Rock Power Report. I'm just going to press record and go. So check those guys out. Drew has some great thoughts. He brings up some points I never think of. And I feel bad for Chris. He has to deal with them all the time. But, that guy does. I mean, their intro is absolutely disgusting. It makes my intro feel like a piece of shit. But, I mean, at least I wrote the riffs. That's kind of cool. Little humble brag. Anyways, you just pay people to record you. They do it. It's called the studio. Doesn't mean you're special. Anybody can go in there. All right, so I'm your host, David Palermo. Thank you for everything. Make sure you check out Grandstand Sports Network. Also, Punch Drunk Sports on Twitter, everywhere else too. And check out their podcast. And lastly, numbillsfan.com is all the content. If you'd like to subscribe, please do. Please do. I'm running a contest as well. Come sit with me at the game. Send in a review wherever you review podcasts. I don't care if it's iTunes or somewhere else. Make a post. Maybe if you can't get an iTunes review, maybe get 5 people in front of you to subscribe and show me that they subscribe with screenshots and stuff. Make a case. Or send me an email, david@numbillsfan.com. Send me an email why you think maybe you should sit next to me at the game and really regret it. Do you really want to sit next to me? Okay, I'm not that bad. I really don't drink. Pretty much on a straight and narrow there because I like to stay focused. Last time I drank at a Bills game heavy was the Steelers game last year, and I'm like, what do you mean they lost? I was in a block. I told the story many times. I was in the box with my friend Anthony Hayward, Tugboat. If you know Tugboat, the hip-hop star here in Rochester, New York. Tugboat's the man. Love Anthony, old friend. And next thing you know, I'm sitting next to, this lady talking and her husband, and we're talking about, I think she was a sociologist, or, damn it. Talking to myself here. This is great. A sociology professor. So, interesting conversation, and I was eating sushi and some kind of really good prime rib up there and really hammered off of gin and tonics. And because that's how I roll is with the gin and tonic. Don't laugh at me. I'm just me. And long story short, I didn't really realize Le'Veon Bell ran for 200 plus yards. I was like, but the Bills had so many turnovers. Oh, the Bills themselves. What else is new? At least back then. So, thank you, everybody, for checking out. I don't really drink at the game, but if you want to come hang out, if you live in Rochester or even want to meet me at my crib, just don't stab me. You can come to the game, and I'll even give you a ride. I drive there, and I drive home, and I take back roads, so I don't drive like a maniac, because I ain't putting the wear and tear on that throughway, because so many people drive like asswipes. They don't know how to drive. The left lane is for passing only. Move the fuck over. All right. I'm your host, David Palermo. I'm really leaving. Find everything, Numb Bills fan everywhere. See ya.